Wade Barrett, Sir Bad News of Barrett. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining me on the show. How does it feel to be holding the IC title again? Because it's a title that perhaps hasn't had a lot of attention recently. Do you think you're going to help kind of bring it up the ladder again?
You know, I've had it 5 times now, so it kind of feels normal that I'm the IC champion and I'm carrying it around in my bag. But I agree, you know, sometimes it feels like it's lost its luster and it doesn't have the focus on the show. But I think hopefully at WrestleMania it's got a pretty big spot with this ladder match, and hopefully that's going to restore a bit of pride to the title.
Was that exciting news, learning that you were going to be in a ladder match? Because that's a pretty big deal at WrestleMania.
It's definitely
right?
not my forte. It tends to be the forte of the high flyers, but you know, it's great just to be involved in WrestleMania. I've had some bad luck in the past when it comes to being involved with WrestleManias. I've had one very small match in 2011, and aside from that, I've not done too well there. So it's good to finally be set in stone. I'm going to have this match at WrestleMania, and hopefully we'll steal the show.
Are you nervous about having a ladder match? Am I right in saying it's your first ever?
Well, I've been involved in kind of Money in the Bank ladder
Money in the
matches
Bank,
quite
course,
a few times before, so it's my first one that doesn't have a briefcase hanging over, but it's kind of the same thing, really, if you consider it's just a title that's going to be holding up instead. So yeah, I've got a bit of experience, got to look back over the tapes and remember how to do them, but yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. Now let's go back to the start, if you don't mind. What was your journey like to WWE? Obviously, you're a British guy. How did you end up landing in the big leagues?
You know, I always loved WWE as a kid. I grew up as a massive fan of guys like the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, and Bret the Hitman Hart, the Ultimate Warrior, and all those kind of guys. And kind of when I got to about my mid-teens, a lot of my friends had grown out of wrestling by that point and weren't watching anymore, but I was the one guy who was still watching all through kind of the down period that WWE experienced back then. And then the Attitude Era hit, and it exploded again. Everybody started watching again. I was still a huge fan, and then that died down and everyone stopped watching again, but I was still there. So I knew that there was something about wrestling that I'd just completely fallen in love with, and it had taken over me. It wasn't so much a pop culture thing, it was just that I loved pro wrestling. And then I decided when I got to about 2021 that I really wanted to do it. I'd always been a good athlete, I was big, I could speak well, and I thought I'd have a good chance of getting somewhere if I applied myself. So started working out and found a wrestling school near me and started training, and one thing led to another. I eventually got a tryout with WWE in 2007 and brought over to the States and given a visa and given a developmental contract over here.
And was your tryout in England? Was that when they came for a UK tour?
Yeah, I actually had a few tryouts. I had 3 tryouts in total, spread over about 2 years, and the one where I was successful, they were on a UK tour. It was April 2007, and they were putting on Raw and SmackDown in Earl's Court in London, and they brought myself, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, and a few other guys over and had a look at us during the day, and fortunately we were offered contracts at the end of it.
Was that the famous John Cena, Shawn Michaels match that they did? I think it was, wasn't it?
It might have been. It was definitely around that. I was at the show where that happened. I can't remember if it was that particular show or if it was the tryout before that I had, but yeah, it was around that period. It was an amazing match. Yeah.
And you talked about kind of sticking with WWE when your friends kind of tailed off and they didn't, you know, they kind of grew out of it, as it were. But in that time, that new generation time, when you had the likes of, I guess business wasn't doing brilliantly back then, but you had the likes of Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart coming through, Undertaker was coming to his own. I thought it was an amazing time to be a fan. Yeah,
100%. It was a great period. There was a lot of very kind of stupid, dumb, childish stuff that was going on at the time, which I think turned off a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you looked hard enough, there were those great performers coming through and coming into their own. As you mentioned, Bret the Hitman Hart, one of my favourites of all time.
Who I understand kind of took you under your wing a little bit when you joined. You mentioned to me before that you had a nice barbecue around at his house.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You've always heard the old expression, you know, never meet your heroes because they're going to disappoint you. And I can tell you with 95% of the cases it tends to be true, but with Bret the Hitman Hart it was the complete opposite. He was way better than I ever could imagined, and from the first day I met him he treated me as his equal, which I clearly wasn't at that time. And you know, he's invited me over to his place for barbecues before. He's always spoken very highly of me in media and stuff like that. And I can say he far exceeded my expectations of what he would be like as a man. So yeah, it's great.
And so he's a good man. Is he a good cook?
You know what? I don't recall if he was actually doing the sausage grilling.
He didn't get people in to cook the meat.
No, he didn't get professionals in, but you know, it was a little hazy. I might have drank a few beers that night, but I remember it was a good evening anyway.
And who else kind of took you under their wing when you joined? Because I imagine, especially as a Brit coming over to America, coming to this huge organisation, that's a big deal. It must have been pretty nerve-wracking. Who kind of scooped you up and helped you along your way?
Yeah, well, before anybody saw me on WWE TV, I spent a couple of years in the developmental system in WWE with a group called FCW at the time. It's now transformed into NXT.
Yeah.
But I was working with a lot of guys there like Norman Smiley, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Billy Kidman. So those were the guys that were really kind of helping me out a lot early on and kind of giving me coaching and training.
Pretty
and
good
stuff like
coaches
that.
to have.
Absolutely, very well-rounded group.
Yeah.
So Dusty Rhodes especially helped me out a lot on the kind of promo side of things rather than the in-ring side, whereas the others were more focused on the technical stuff.
And talking about NXT, or it's now turned into NXT, what are your memories of that night was it June 2010 when you debuted on the main roster on Raw with the other guys from NXT? How was that day, and who kind of backstage knew what was going to go down that night?
Yeah, that day we didn't really know what was happening till about an hour before the show. It was all very hush-hush and top secret, and we got pulled into a room with Vince and a bunch of the agents, and we were explained, look, we've got this idea, here's what we want you to do. So we realised it was pretty huge. We knew nothing like that had ever been done before in terms of smashing up the ring and beating up the number one guy, John Cena, so we knew it was a great opportunity for us, and going out there and executing this plan we had to cause as much carnage as possible in as short a space of time as possible, and actually seeing the audience reactions was incredible. I think there was people just, had gone white with shock with what they were watching, and that in this day and age is so hard to actually achieve because people have seen everything so many times, and you can go on YouTube, or we produce probably 8 or 9 hours of brand new wrestling every week on TV. It's so hard to do something new and fresh that's going to capture people's imagination. So that was a real cool experience.
An hour before.
Yep.
What was your feeling when you thought, oh my God, we're going to, create history tonight as a brand new group of guys? Were you ready for it? Were you like, yeah, let's go for this? Or were you like...
I think we were completely ready. I mean, we'd been in, for the most part, and the majority of us have been in the developmental system a few years. We've been clawing to get this opportunity. We'd been put through our paces on the NXT show, which large parts of the show we weren't happy with because it kind of felt they were making fools of us at times with some of the challenges and stuff like that we had to do. So we knew this was a serious, solid piece of professional wrestling, and we wanted to make sure we did it well. So I mean, once the word go, I mean, we went out there and we were completely focused.
Do you think that's a bit, when you mentioned kind of being made to look fools of on the NXT show, how it was back then, do you think that's it's quite a strange thing, isn't it, to sort of bring new talents in and then make them look a bit silly?
Yeah.
Like, I've never quite understood that.
I think so, and I think for the most part now that's it's ancient history in WWE.
Yeah.
I think for the most part when they bring people up now, you look at guys like The Shield and the Wyatts and people like that, I think for the most part they've done away with this whole, teach this kid, make him pay his dues or whatever they want to call it. But I think it was a little stupid at times. I don't think much foresight was put into some of the ideas, and fortunately I think it's kind of done away with now.
I guess the new guys coming up now is just so hungry and so talented as well.
Yeah.
Like NXT. What are your opinions on NXT and the Performance Center, and how do you think it differs to, I guess the indie circuits and people traveling the world to make it to WWE? Now they go through this farm system. What do you think the differences are between the two?
I think WWE as a product is very specific versus all the other indie companies that are out there. We have specific ways we like talent to wrestle. We have specific ways we like them to talk. How they should look, how they should perform in the ring, and I think the NXT system specifically gets people ready for WWE versus, going to wrestle in Japan or Mexico or wherever it is. So, for our purposes, I think NXT is an amazing system. I think since Triple H has taken over the developmental system, it's just gone from strength to strength, and the opportunities that the guys and girls have down in NXT to learn and develop into fully fledged WWE superstars has never been greater. So it's great for the future of the industry, and I think when you look at the kind of talent that's getting produced down there, it's very positive, and things are looking very good for the fans of the future.
Are you envious of the sort of match time they get? Because there's been rumours, whether or not they're true, but rumours about some of the main roster talents looking at the NXT guys thinking, man, they've got half an hour to put on an incredible show every week.
Honestly, I've never heard that up
Okay.
here in the locker room. I've heard rumours on the internet and on Twitter and things like that that's apparently been going around. I've never heard anyone be anything but supportive of NXT.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had to ask me, would I rather be up here on WWE TV in a short match or down in NXT doing a long match? I'd rather be in WWE doing a short match if that was my option. So I wouldn't say there's any envy or anything like that. I think it's great those guys get a chance to develop.
And who in particular are you looking forward to coming up to the main roster to have some matches with? Who have you got your eyes
I think the two that have really stood out for me have to be Sami Zayn and Adrian Neville. Obviously, I've always had my eye on Adrian Neville being an English guy, but I didn't really know too much about Sami Zayn before. He's been on a few live event loops on the road with us with WWE. I've got to know him quite well now, and he's an amazing performer, and I think the pair of them are going to do very well for themselves.
He's a good guy, isn't he, Sammy?
Yeah, he's a cool bloke.
Like the
They
nicest
both
guy.
are. Adrian Neville's a cool guy.
Yeah,
too.
he's great. It's fair to say you've been quite unlucky with injuries over the last couple of years. I saw a video of, I think maybe someone was dropped on you on the outside, or you busted up your arm on the outside of the ring.
Yeah.
And instantly, you obviously knew you were injured, and you could see the frustration, and you were sort of yelling and screaming because I guess you knew that you'd really hurt your arm. How are you feeling now?
I feel 100% it's the best I've ever felt. I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life at the moment. I've dropped a little weight.
I was going to say, I thought you were looking a bit trimmer.
Feel better in the ring. I feel 100%. My injuries are all healed up, and I have had some bad luck in the past, but fingers crossed things keep going as well as they have been doing lately, and I get to WrestleMania in one piece.
It must be really gutting if you get an injury, just knowing like, great, I'm now out for 6 months.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, what surprises people is when you first get an injury, it doesn't really hurt. There's no pain there because your body has a way of adapting around it. So when I've got my two injuries and I've been clearly showing some frustration, it wasn't through pain. It was just because I know the second it happens, okay, I'm not hurt, I'm injured. There's a big difference between being hurt and injured, I think. Pretty much every match at some point I'm hurt, but to actually be injured and you're injured because there's a bone sticking out where it shouldn't be sticking out, or so your arm's bent back in the wrong direction, if that's happened, you're probably going to be out at least 6 months. And wrestling careers are pretty short as they are. The last thing you need, especially in the run up to a WrestleMania or something like that, is to be missing out on that. So yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. And with the lifestyle that we have, we're 100 miles an hour on the go all the time. We're in gyms, and then we're wrestling, and then we're flying here and flying there. To suddenly get that taken away and just be sat on your couch for 6 months is really soul destroying. So there's a lot of things that flash through your mind very quickly once you get an injury, and that comes out in a lot of frustration.
And so you're feeling good now. What is on your horizon for the next 12 months? What do you really want to achieve?
I mean, for me, I want to get past WrestleMania first. My focus is completely on that match and going in there and killing it in that match. After that, I've always said, England's never, or the UK have never had a world heavyweight champion. And I want that title. I want that before I can leave WWE. So that's always going to be my focus. But really, as long as I can go out there, enjoy my wrestling, feel like I'm contributing, then I'm going to stay here as long as I can.
And so if you want to be world champion, which would be awesome, by the way, and I know the UK fans would go nuts for it, but like we were speaking to Cesaro yesterday, and he was saying that he lets actions speak louder than words in terms of kind of getting pushed, as it were. He puts it all in the ring, and that's how he proves himself. Are you the same, or do you kind of get involved in the backstage politics, trying to speak to Vince, pitch him things? Like, how does a young guy like you try and reach the top?
It's very difficult. I'm not a great politician. I never have been. I've never been one to go and have a quiet word in the boss's ear and try and steer him in a certain direction. I think I'm definitely more along the Cesaro route of doing things in terms of going out there and just delivering as much as I can. Sometimes you're handed an opportunity in WWE that's amazing, and you almost can't fail at it. And I'll use the Nexus as an example of that. Obviously, I had to do the work and I had to deliver. But that was such a huge opportunity that I almost couldn't help but look good from it. And then other times you get handed opportunities that really aren't so good, and you've got to try and make some magic out of them. And I think if you look at the kind of mix of opportunities I've had, I've always tried to make the best of even the bad stuff, and even the stuff that other people might have failed at. I felt I've delivered and done my best. And if that to me is my selling point to management, if they want to progress me further within the company and get me those bigger opportunities after that, then it's up to them. But I don't feel there's too much I can do in terms of going and politicking or anything like that. Yeah. That's not my way of doing it. And
can we expect any more comedy from you? Because I think you're hilarious.
Thank you very much.
The bad news stuff is amazing. My favourite is Happy Valentine's Day, you fat pigs.
My favourite too.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, the issue we have is that sometimes if you become too funny, and I agree a lot of it was very funny, then people start cheering you, and if that's not in the company's plans for me to be cheered, then we have to scale that back a little. And unfortunately with some of the bad news stuff, it was getting too popular for a bad guy, and if I have to continue being the bad guy for the time being, then we had to knock that on the head. But it might come back at some point, we'll see how it goes.
It's a great character to have done.
It's a lot of fun.
Now, we spoke to Paige about this, being a fellow Brit. If you were to book your own match, like a dream match, opponent, event, match stipulation and venue, what would it be? Who, what, and where?
Okay, well, I would like to go back in time and wrestle against the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. He was my hero growing up, and I had a huge poster of him on my wall, and he was one of my biggest inspirations to get here to WWE. So it'd definitely be against him. I think it would have to be for the Intercontinental Championship at Wembley Stadium. Sold out Wembley Stadium would be amazing. Obviously, he did that in SummerSlam in '92 against Bret the Hitman Hart, and it was for the Intercontinental Championship. So I would like to have that. And honestly, he's one of those guys I wouldn't even want to have a stipulation match with him. Just two guys in the ring for the title, just go out there and tear the place up. And,
pure wrestling.
I think British Bulldog against Bad News Barrett at Wembley Stadium would, I think the place would explode.
Did you ever get to meet Bulldog?
No, I didn't. I'm very good friends with his family. He passed away, I think, in 2002, I think it was, or 2001. So I wasn't actually in the wrestling industry at that point. I started off in 2004. So unfortunately, never got to meet him, but his whole family, I'm very good friends with him.
Lots of good Bulldog stories from Bret, I imagine.
Yeah, I've heard a few, and Tyson Kidd's another one who's always got a good Bulldog story too.
Awesome. Now, I want to play a little game called Getting to Know Wade Barrett a Little Bit Better Than We Do Already. Okay? Snappy title. Favourite UK comedy and why?
Favourite UK comedy would be Bottom. I think anything with Rick Mail involved is just classic for me. It was such a shame he passed away last year. To me, he's the funniest man in the history of the world, and Bottom was his absolute peak in terms of comedy.
Favourite film of all time?
Favourite film of all time, I will go with Leaving Las Vegas with Nicolas Cage. Probably a bit of a weird one. It's a real downer film, but something about it I love. It's a very unique take on life, and I thought it was a classic.
And you know, the story about the film company went to Vegas, the council or whatever it's called in Vegas, and they pitched to make this film, and Vegas said no. So they did it guerrilla style. Oh,
okay. I didn't know that. There we go.
Little fact about that film. Favourite TV show of all time?
Favourite TV show?
Any box sets grabbing you at the moment?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go with a more current one. I think we'll go with The In-Betweeners. Since I've come out to the US, comedy is not easy to come by. The US brand of comedy I don't really connect with too well. I don't think I've ever laughed once watching Saturday Night Live. So to get some box sets in the mail from my family in the UK is always good, and someone randomly sent me The In-Betweeners, which I hadn't seen before, and then I worked my way through that and thought that was amazing. So we'll go with that.
And have you seen The In-Betweeners films?
I've seen them all, yeah.
So good.
Yeah,
so good. Favourite meal?
Favourite meal, being an Englishman, I have to go with the English staple, curry. So a nice Indian curry. The Americans, again, don't really get it at all. Whenever I've taken it, they think it stinks, they think it tastes horrible, and it hurts their mouth and all this stuff. It's very hard to get a good curry out here in the US, but when I'm home, I get myself a nice Madras.
Nice Madras, good. Favourite thing to watch on the WWE Network?
I am an old school fan of WWE, so I like watching kind of the first 10 WrestleManias. Anything from that kind of era, that was when I grew up and started discovering WWE. It reminds me a lot of my childhood and the guys that I really looked up to and guys who inspired me to get to WWE. So anything from that period of WrestleMania 1 to 10 and all the pay-per-views from that era, I'll watch all of them. Now,
let's talk about WrestleMania. It's on the horizon, very exciting time to be a fan. And a superstar and a diva as well, I imagine. For anyone who has never watched a WrestleMania, how would you describe the event? Kind of from an emotional point of view, you know, because the event must mean so much to you guys backstage. How would you sell the event to a fan who's never seen a Mania?
Well, I'm assuming most of the people who are watching this interview are from the UK, and probably the easiest way to put it into perspective for the UK fan base is to say it's basically the World Cup final of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
There's so much history built into WrestleMania. It's a massive stadium we're at with 80 or 90,000 screaming fans. This is where every performer on the show goes all out, from their in-ring performance to the storylines involved to their costumes to the kind of pyrotechnic displays we have and that sort of thing. So this is where we go all out and make sure this is the best show of the year, and every year it consistently is the best show of the year. So if you're only going to catch one show, make sure it's WrestleMania.
And do you know how many people are going to be participating in the ladder match yet? Has that even been
I've
confirmed?
heard a couple of rumours, nothing's
Okay.
been confirmed yet. I've heard possibly 6, possibly 7. We'll find out. I don't even know who the competitors are. The only one who's been guaranteed at the time of recording this interview is me, Bad News Barrett. So I will be there.
And I guess everyone wants a spot on the card. don't they?
Everybody's
So important to get
trying to
everyone
get into this match now, and there's quite a few people who've got a pretty good claim for it. But everybody wants to be involved, because I think this match in particular has a very good chance of being something quite special.
Now, I'd be remiss not to ask you about one Wayne Rooney. What's the beef?
Well, the beef is that Preston North End, for the first time in 43 years, did well enough in the FA Cup to get to a point where we were actually drawn against Manchester United. Now, that in itself was huge for a guy like me. I've never seen my team play against Manchester United, and it was all televised, and I made sure I watched it online over here when I was getting ready for Raw on a Monday. And Preston did amazing. We went 1-0 up, and then second half, Man United came back, and with about 10 minutes to go, they're up 2-1. But Preston are desperately trying to get that equaliser so we can get a replay at Old Trafford and make a bunch of money off that, which for a club like Preston is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then anyway, Wayne Rooney, a guy who I've always supported from day one, decides to fall over in the Preston penalty area with about 10 minutes to go without being touched, and then claim a penalty. And then not only that, he shamelessly picks up the ball and sticks it in the corner of the net and basically wins the game for Manchester United. And there's no reply for Preston from there. So I decided I was going to hit Wayne Rooney up and call him out on his diving on Twitter. I tagged him in there, and he then decided to respond and tell me he was going to get Stone Cold Steve Austin to beat me up. So obviously, okay, I'm all over this, and I set him a challenge, him and Stone Cold Steve Austin, against me and Kevin Davis, the Preston North End striker. So, I'm still waiting to hear back confirmation from him on that. I think he's mulling it over. He might be a little bit scared at this point, but definitely, Wayne, if you're out there, hit me up and we'll make this happen.
I mean, you legitimately want to bring him to the WWE world?
Of course,
Is that something you want to make happen?
We've had people in the UK who are trying to reach out to him at the moment, and if we can do something with him either at WrestleMania or on our European tour, which is coming up just after WrestleMania, where we'll be hitting all the hot spots in the UK, all the big cities, then definitely come along and we'll figure something out.
Have you got anything you want to say to Wayne? Down the barrel?
Wayne, I'm a big fan, but you've done me a disservice by not accepting my challenge. I mean, I'm going to be in Manchester very soon. I'm going to be over there on tour, and I'm looking forward to coming face to face with you.
Nice. And has Stone Cold been in touch? Is he up for the tag match?
Stone Cold, I know he's technically retired, so whether he's into it or not, I'm not sure. I know he responded on Twitter to something Rooney said. I think calling Rooney out on his hair plugs or something like that. So Stone Cold wasn't a big fan of the old hair plugs, obviously having a bald head
not
himself.
A good look.
So whether he'd tag with Wayne or not, I'm not sure. I might get Stone Cold on my side and we can gang up on Wayne.
So surely that's the main event of 32 in Dallas, right?
I think so. I mean,
it's a big stadium.
Big money in Wayne Rooney and Bad News Barrett in the ring. I think we've already got that main event. So he's probably going to cost a lot of money to get him out there. But if he's up for it, we'll make it happen.
I'd love to see you beat the crap out of him.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Wayne, really good to see you.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Appreciate it, mate.
Cheers.